Hey everyone, Paul ISM. Welcome to the very first part of our Tamiya Suzuki GSX-RR video build. Excited to start this one. Like I said in my review, building this alongside Luke, Wardy Boy over at Scale Model Hobbies. So go over and support Luke as well. Luke's done a review of the kit and he will have his first part of the build up at some point in the near future. So normal way my videos work is we do all the body work first, which we are going to kind of do, but we're going to have to leave some of it to dry. So we're going to concentrate mostly today on the engine, and then we'll deal with all the bodywork in part 2. So get yourself a cup of tea, a pack of biscuits, put your feet up, and we'll have a look at this absolutely amazing kit from Tamiya. Hey everyone, please subscribe to the channel, click the bell notifications, get notified of our latest videos, give the video a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and leave a comment. I do read and appreciate every comment you guys and girls leave behind. I may not reply to them all, but they are all appreciated. And there's a link in the description of the video that takes you to a big long list of all handy videos and a lot of the products I use in my videos. You now have the chance to support the video content creation by using Patreon or the PayPal me link in the description down below. All the videos will always remain free to watch. This is just your chance to help support the videos. Okay, so let's make a start on this wonderful kit. So like I said, we've done a review of this. The kit looks absolutely fantastic. I'm just going through, marking all the parts that are bodywork panels. Everything's going to need preparing and priming and spraying, ready for all our fairings and all the bodywork bits. Just going through, highlight it all. That way we shouldn't miss anything and do anything untoward. So as you can see, quite a bit. We've got a few parts going to need gluing together. We've got plenty of parts going to need de-seaming. Luckily this front side fairing and nose are kind of combined, which makes life a little bit easier on this, and the side fairings just butt up against the side of them, so pretty easy clean up, nice and easy to get off the sprues. Using our Tamiya cutters, some UMP sanders, we can clean them all up. Like I say, just go around, make sure any bits you remove are pieces you're supposed to remove. I've done this before and cut off little bits I'm not supposed to. So just double check anything before you cut it, and then once you're happy, give everything a sand. I'm going to use a combination of our 400 Ultimate Thinny sticks, the 220 Thinny sponge, and our Thinny buffer as well. And that got rid of any sprue points, any sprue nibs, and any seam lines as well. And like I say, just go around, gently sand them off. There's a big seam line that runs each side of the tank and goes right down the back end, so some gentle sanding over the top will remove that, no problem at all. Hit it with our UMP buffer. Have a batch of brand new clean plastic ready for primer. So one piece tank on this, which is always nice on the bikes. A lot of filling required on these sometimes, and the tank is always an absolute pig to do. But luckily one piece tank. The front fairing nose, just a couple of sprue points to remove, and then there's a seam line right up the front of it. I think Tamiya often uses the seams as paint demarcations, but we don't want this. We can figure that out by eye. So again, just gently run over it with the sponge sander. They're not very prominent, so they are easily removed. And just don't deform the shape or take off any surface detail. Just be nice and gentle. Let the sander do the work. I know it's an old cliche saying, but it's an abrasive sander. It doesn't need a whole lot of pressure. Just let the sander do the job. So we've got the under tray here. So we're going to glue these together using our Tamiya Extra Thin Plasti Weld glue mix, which I've got a video on the channel on how I make. So just going to glue it all together, run all seam all the way around of glue, and then we'll lightly press it together, get some molten plastic, hopefully to do most of the gap filling for us. And then later on we're going to come back and fill this in with sprue goo, which again I've got a video on the channel on how to make. So just make sure everything's lined up. It's quite easy to misalign the part, so get all the front lined up and then run around to the back. And like I say, I'm just giving a little bit of pressure to get the molten plastics to squeeze out and hopefully do most of our gap filling for us. So don't go mad with the glue, just put enough on to melt the parts and just make sure it's all straight. So the front fender, again, same process, glue the halves together. What we'll do when these are all glued as well, we'll reinforce the seam underneath using some CA glue. I've done this on a lot of bikes. I've had a couple where I've got to the very end stage of the build where it's literally 2K, decaled a lot. A little bit of polishing on this and it's collapsed, fell in half. So I found the CA glue strengthens it a touch and just adds a little bit of rigidity and hopefully a little bit of reassurance that it will fall to bits at a later date. So again, using our glue, make sure you don't get any glue through the seams, not on your finger. You don't add more work by having to clean up fingerprints. And again, once you've done it, just push the parts together with a little bit of pressure and you should get a nice molten seam of plastic come out and hopefully that should fill most of the gap for us. So just take your time here. Time spent here is saved later on. Like I say, once you've got it glued, just give it a good squeeze together. You will literally see the molten plastic come out of the seam. Make sure everything's lined up front and back as well, and put it all to one side to fully dry. Back piece is a little bit more complicated, so we've got this little H section in the middle. The two halves come together and glue together as well. And there's a couple of pieces that go on the back, and they do have natural seams. You can look on the real bike, there's a seam there, so we don't want to get any molten glue, and we don't want to fill them in later on as well. So this part just fits in over the top. And that whole rear section there is a seam on the bike, so we don't want to fill that. But obviously we need to glue it. So we're going to hold it with equal pressure, not too much. Run a bead of glue along it. That will glue it in without ruining the panel line. And then there's a front section and an underneath section at the back to go in as well. Some of it will need filling a little bit further forward under the seat. That will need filling in. But these back pieces, we're just going to glue. Leave them alone. We don't want any molten plastic coming through on this because it'll destroy the panel line. And just build it up nice and slow. Let the capillary action of the glue work, and then flip it around to the other side. And like I say, there's this little piece that fits on under the back. The fit of the kit is absolutely phenomenal. Really no issues at all. Everything fits together with ease and just absolute perfection. And so a little bit of glue. Don't go mad with the glue. As you can see, I'm wiping most of it off the tip of the brush. And there we go. So I'm trying to be as in-depth as I can on the video without boring everybody and showing every aspect. But I don't want to go too in-depth because it can drag out a little bit then. On the front piece here, there's two little pieces that sit in the side. There's a little indentation it sits. So I've just put a little dab of glue in there. And then we pop it in place and then just run a little bit of extra thin EMA plastic weld just under the bottom and over the top. And again, this seam will be filled later on as well. Repeat that for the other side. Just put a little bit of glue on. Don't go mad with the glue. You don't need tons of it. It's surprising just how little we'll glue it. Make sure it's straight and then give it a little push in again as well. And there we go. And then this little section on the back. I've waited for the glue to dry on this so we don't move anything around. Just fits in like so. And again, has a natural panel line. So we're just going to lightly glue that in place as well. So refer to instructions. Instructions do tell you where there are panel lines. Refer to real pictures of the bike because they're helpful too. And don't go ahead and glue anything in without being completely sure. As we'll find out later, I glue something together and forget out a strengthening piece in the middle. One of the side fairings has this little intake here. So it fits in absolutely perfect. I'm just going to run a little bead of extra thin around it. Just push it in ever so lightly. And there we go. That's that part. Be very careful of fingerprints. Don't get your fingers in any glue because it makes such a mess of the part. It's a lot of work to take care of. Now I've got a video on the channel showing how I made the sprue goo. I'm just going to apply this on all the major seams that need filling. So this is basically molten styrene. So it's bits of styrene in some old extra thin, which melts it. This creates like a molten plastic. Once that dries, you basically, it's plastic again. And you can sand it nice and easily. And the gap filling properties are very good. You may find you need to do a little bit more. We're not going to get to this stage just yet in this video because I like to leave this for a few days to dry. But it's a good filler. My one here is a little bit too thick. So it needs a little bit of prodding and, as you can see, persuasion to get where I needed it. But it's a good filler. It works really well, but it does take quite some time to dry. So be patient. Give it at least 3 days before you sand it. Like I say, I always find there's always one or two spots that don't quite take, so they'll be filled in with shea glue at a later date. And the same with the front fender as well. Just run a bead over the top, put it to one side. When you put them to one side, make sure they don't fall over because they end up sticking to things, and don't let them stick to each other either because this is molten plastic. It is glue, essentially. So just put any generous bead on where you need to fill. And then just leave it for a few days to fully dry before you come back and sand it. And like I say, being plastic, which is what it basically is, molten plastic, it does sand really easily. A lot quicker than shea glue and other fillers, and it doesn't shrink much either. But I almost always find I have a couple of little specks I have to refill later on. We'll see later on in part 2 what we've got, because we'll deal with painting and preparing all the bodywork in part 2. So we've got some Rocket Rapid, and we've got some Activator, and we're going to put a little bead, well, quite a generous bead of shea glue right across the seam on the inside. This has no detrimental effect to the fit. It looks like a lot going in, but it soon self-levels. Like I say, get right in the corners, right where we want it. So we've got it at the front, all the way down the middle, and I'm just going to get a little bit in the back there. Like so. Then we grab our super glue activators. This is the Deluxe Materials kicker. A couple of sprays of that on there. Absolutely stinks. Really does smell horrific. And then we've done the same on the underneath of the fender as well. So we just give that a quick spray of the activator too. And that will cure our super glue almost instantly. And there we go. So they can be left to one side for the sprue glue to dry. As you can see, there's our seam inside. A nice generous amount of cera glue. And sprue glue on top. So we've got a bit of strength underneath. Hopefully we've filled most of our gaps. We'll find out in part 2. So with those put to one side to dry, we're going to work on the engine now. So absolutely beautiful engine. Fits together just amazing. A lot of it just clicks in place. You could almost get away with no glue. A little bit of cleanup required here and there. Quite a lot of components to the engine, so a little bit of cleanup required here. And we're just working through them all here, having a look. We've got the airbox here that does need gluing together, so that's going to need some sprue glue as well, which we'll also do in a minute, and that can be put to one side as well. But if you built one of Tamiya's bike engines, you know, they're like a work of art. They just go together so well. So you put the two halves together. We've forgotten a fundamental strengthening point at the front here, which probably would have helped at this stage in getting this together, but I literally notice it after it's been painted. So there's a little bar that goes in the front there. You can see the locator point just at the bottom. But we get it all together just fine, and it's not too much of an issue at all. Line all the parts up, make sure they fit. Then apply some extra thin. You don't need a lot at all, just let it run along the seam. There's no strength required here in this part, just needs lightly glued together. So that's it. And then we can run around all the other pieces and get everything glued in place as well. The fit is phenomenal. Everything just slots in place. Like so, you'll see this now, just clicks in place. There we go, absolutely flawless, almost seamless. And like I say, we just apply a little bit of glue. Don't go mad with the glue, you really don't need to. Sorry about my autofocus, plays up every now and then. A little bit of glue. Just be nice and careful, don't get it everywhere, it just causes a mess if you get it everywhere. You just need to do the join, it doesn't need a lot of glue at all. The thinness of the glue, the capillary reaction will carry it into the part. Like I say, pop the other side of the block on as well. There we go. The fit is absolutely amazing, absolutely beautiful. There we go, just clicks in place very positively. There we are. If you've built these modern day bike kits, you know exactly what these engines are like. They're absolutely beautiful to build, very well detailed. They look really good painted up in all the metallics. So there we go. Like I say, I'm trying to show everything without going on about things too long. So just having a look how things fit together and glue. We've got the sump. There's a lower part of the sump to go on as well, so that can go on now. There we go. It's a little bit of extra thin. Less is more when it comes to glue. You really don't need a lot. You don't want it running all down the part or onto your fingers and leaving big gluey fingerprints behind. So less is more. You don't need a huge amount of it, just enough. And just make sure to push fully home. And there we are. And then the final piece to the block is this little piece here, which slots in just like that. A little bit of glue again. We're not putting hardly anything on. As you can see, I'm wiping most of it off. And there we go. So let that dry overnight. We're here the next day with Mr. Surfacer 1500 Black. And we're going to put down a couple of light coats of this. So this is thinned about 70% with Mr. Level and Thinner. We throw our 0.35 Apex, 18 PSI. I should have my colour code lid on, but I haven't, unfortunately. I don't think I spill anything. But you should have it on, really, to save spillages. And like I say, going around, getting all those little recesses and crevices, make sure we get them all covered. Give it a coat, get a couple of coats, and then work our way around all the other parts as well. So all these parts here are either metallic or they're going to be black. So basically, we can just spray it in Mr. Surfacer Black, Clutch, the kick clutch is absolutely beautiful. You see it at the end all painted up. It looks absolutely stunning. Like I say, the detail is really going to come alive once we get some metallics down on the engine. So why I do this, I'm wiggling the airbrush and I'm spinning the engine slowly on my cocktail stick. We'll let that dry for probably 5-6 hours. First colour I was going to go was LP20, which is what the instructions call out for. As soon as I sprayed it on, I knew it was too dark. It's not the lighter gunmetal colour I was after. Just a little bit too much of an opposing colour. So I put it down anyway to see what it looked like. Let it dry, and yeah, it was just a shade too dark. It's going to look a little bit odd. So we'll leave that and come back to that later. We'll let that dry. We've got some Mr. Colour 217 Gold. This is the buffable. And I was looking at pictures of the clutch and after looking at the colour I got out of this, it looked absolutely perfect. So the idea of these is you thin them about 50% with Mr. Hobby leveling thinner. I think I used the actual rapid thinner on this one, to be honest. We've got a 0.2mm apex, 18 psi, couple of light coats, let it fully dry, and you can buff up with an old cloth or a cotton bud, and it gives a little bit of sheen. This one's probably not the best of the colours to show the effect. The dark iron is by far the best one. But the colour for the clutch is absolutely perfect. You look at my finished clutch at the end, and look at the real one, it looks absolutely spot on. So a couple of light coats of that, no problem at all. Now we've got some LP61 metallic grey. And this cam, rocker cover, engine cover, whatever you call it, and the sump are a very specific colour. I know Luke's made his own colour out of some, I think it was Army Painter paints. And I had to think about this, and I had a few parts to paint in this, so I thought, right, let's paint them up with this, and then we'll go over it with a different paint and add a bit of a different tone to it. And I'm happy with the colour we get at the end. So a couple of light coats of the LP61, let that fully dry. Again, 0.2mm apex, 18 psi, and a couple of coats of that, and they are good to go. This one here, we've got my own Mr. Hobby titanium mix. So it's a bit of gold and titanium silver, which gives the titanium silver a little bit of a gold hue, which is just the colour I'm looking for. And then on some plates on the side, the clutch cover and some inspection panels, I assume they are a very high shine silver, different to the engine. So I went with Mr. Hobby Super Metallic Chrome on this. So this has been thinned with the rapid thinner as well. The theory is the paint dries quicker, the pigments don't sink in the paint, and you get a more metallic finish. Whether that's true, I don't know. I'm on the fence a little bit whether it works better or not. All I know is either way, it gives a good result. So this is not a bad chrome finish at all. And this is the chrome we'll be using on the windscreen and with arches on the Super B when we finally get around to painting that up. So thinned about 60% with the rapid drying Mr. Hobby thinner. Couple of light coats. We've got a fairly decent chrome finish there. Taking our time building it up. And then as that engine's now dried, we've got some AK Extreme Gunmetal. This is enamel paint. And as you'll see, it's a much lighter gunmetal colour. And it's just going to add not as much of a tonal difference between the engine block and the cylinder head. So as you see, much nicer colour, much more vibrant. AK Extreme enamels are absolutely beautiful paints, but they take forever to dry and they're forever tacky when you're handling parts, which is what I'll see in a little bit when I'm assembling this engine. But they are beautiful paints, very, very nice, highly pigmented. You can hose them on and the colours are just absolutely beautiful, really good. Like I say, the downside is they take forever to dry. So as you see, we've got a much nicer gunmetal colour there, much, much prettier. And then all the other parts are sprayed in LP5 semi-gloss black. So just a couple of light coats of those, and they can all be left to dry. And then we've got some masking to do. So we've got the oil filter here, some numerous other parts, quite a lot of components to the engine, and they do all kind of come together to make quite a nice compact unit. But yeah, LP5 semi-gloss black from Tamiya is a wonderful colour. And then on that sump cover and cam cover, we're going to use some alkali burnt iron. I'm going to mist it on and just change the tone of this a little bit to give it a more satin effect and a little bit more darker effect. At the end, I'm very happy with the colour. It looks absolutely perfect to my eye, kind of. It looks really good. So yeah, I'm happy with that. And yeah, good colour. So just build it up slowly. We throw a 0.2mm apex again, 18 psi. It's a very, very thin paint, so don't hose it on. It is a lacquer as well, so just take your time, build it up, and it'll just add a nice tone to our sump and cam cover as well. There we go. See, just build it up slowly. Hardly any paint coming out of the brush. Just really nice slow build up. And then a final coat. Couple of coats of this. And it just completely changes the colour of the LP61. And there we go. So like I say, alclads, these are about the only alclads I've got of the clear transparent colours. And there we go. There's all our parts base painted up. So we've got to mask off and paint that engine. We need to paint the clutch. There's a decal to go on the clutch as well. So while I'm here, we've got the air cleaner box now. And this is a gold colour. And I knew I had gold bare metal foil, so I thought I'll try it. And yeah, no, it's not going to work. This is far too complex a shape to get it over the edges. It's not going to work at all, which is a real shame because this is the perfect colour for this. But yeah, it's just going to crease too much and it's going to look absolutely rubbish. So we're going to opt for the paint option. We're not going to do this yet because we've got the lower half, which is sprue good. So we're going to wait for that. So this has been drying overnight now. It's the next day. We've got a dry, nice cotton bud. I'm just going to gently rub over all the edges and all the raised surfaces and edges. I'm just going to get a little bit shiny and just add a little bit of depth to the colour. Like so. I just add a little bit of depth, and then while we're leaving that to, well, properly set, I suppose. It is set, but after you wipe it off, I always found it beneficial to let it dry a little bit more. We can mask off our engine block, so that'll leave our gunmetal behind. So using the Tamiya 1, 2, 3 and the 6, 10 and 18mm tapes, we can mask this off carefully. A little bit tricky to do, took a few attempts to do, but it's worthwhile doing because you get a nice demarcation in the end. And then using some of the larger tapes, infill the rest. And then using the even larger tapes, infill all the rest of it too. And there we go, just burnish it down with our decal and tweezers. And as long as you don't spray upwards when you're spraying it, you shouldn't get any overspray in the centre. Okay, with that masked up, a quick trip to the spray booth, and with some Mr. Hobby Super Metallic Super Fine Silver. We've got a few coats of silver down on the engine. Now, the engine does have a more matte effect, and I did use Tamiya LP38 to begin with. It just looked too odd. It had no shine to it and lost a bit of definition of the engine. So I've gone with the Super Fine Silver, which is a little bit too shiny, but I think it looks good myself. We've got some Vallejo model silver now. I'm just going to add some of the detail to the clutch. So I've got a clean or new cocktail stick with a nice flat edge. Load it up with paint and just touch it to it. And we'll add some of the silver detailing to the clutch like so around the edge and the centres. And then there's also a decal which makes all the clutch plates, or looks like the clutch plates, to go around the edge as well. So a nice touch from Tamiya this. It's good thoughtful stuff to add. And like I say, it's a beautiful clutch in the kit and this just adds an extra dimension to it. And yeah, just adds a nice bit of detail to the kit itself. So a little bit of water, carefully peel off the decal on the clutch and wrap it around. Now I did find mine was a little bit tricky to get it pushed all the way up to the top. It just seemed to want to pull itself away. So persevere with it. It does sit right at the top on that lip, as you can see just there. But it did seem very reluctant to sit up there. I don't know if it was the water tension or what was going on. But yeah, it was a bit of a tricky one to get round. So get one part of it lined up and then work your way around and wrap it all the way around the clutch itself. Standard decal procedure. Get it on. Get all the moisture out from underneath. Hit it with the decal solutions. I hit it with UMP Strong straight away. Being a Tamiya decal, they sometimes need a little bit more setting, and I hit it with the extra strong at the end as well. So a little bit of strong there on that just to get it set in place, which worked really well. And like I say, let that dry a bit, and then we'll come back later on with some extra strong like we have here, and just give it a final go over. Once you hit it with the extra strong, don't touch it again. Make sure it doesn't move, and we're all good. So wash, we've got some Tamiya Black Panel Line wash, which is our enamel wash. We've thinned it with a bit of mineral spirits, odorless from Winsor Newton, Sansador. I'm just going to thin it so we've got a nice thin wash. I'm going to give the clutch a bit of a wash and bring out some of the depth of the detail. Like I say, for a kit clutch, it's the best kit clutch I've ever seen. Absolutely beautiful. Even better than the metallic ones you get with some of the earlier RC211s. Just a fantastic clutch. For a piece of plastic, it looks absolutely brilliant. Let that dry for a bit. We've got a pointed cotton bud, just going to go around and remove all the excess wash. And that just adds depth to the clutch and just looks absolutely fantastic for a plastic part. It does look really, really good. There we go, just dab it off. Now we did lose a little bit of the silver we hand painted earlier, so we'll add that back later. Meanwhile, I got some Testors dual coat. That decal is properly dried now, and I'm brush painting on like we did with the wheels on the McLaren, and that will matte all the decal for us. And again, the same cocktail stick, same paint again, the silver overlay on Model Air. We're just going to add some detail to the bolt heads. Whether this is correct for the bike or not, I don't know, and I'll be honest, I don't really care. It just looks nice, adds a little bit of depth. And once we get a wash on the engine later on, it just ties it all together and makes it a bit more interesting to look at. Same with the engine head as well. We've got some silver, we've got some LP61 we put on there as well. It just brings out a bit of detail of what would be another just bland, boring looking part. Just adds a little bit of extra detail to the part. And then the clutch, I'm just going to touch up where we wiped off some of the water-based paint. That's the downside to water-based paint. It's not quite as tough as lacquer. So we're going to add that detail back in, same paint again, just to make it a bit more vibrant. And there we go. The banjo fitting here, on this fitting, we painted in the aluminium gold titanium colour. I've hand painted it with some clear Tamiya blue and just add a little bit of silver touch to the top. I'm just going to add a few little detail points to the engine block itself. And like I say, be aware the AK Extreme does stay tacky. You'll feel it when you handle it. If you're over handling it, it does wear off. So be very careful when handling it. But just adding little bits like this, just add a little bit of depth to it. Makes it a little bit more interesting to look at. Whether it's properly true to how the engine would be, I'm not 100% sure, but it's something I've always done to the engines. Just adds a nice bit of, well, just makes it a little bit nicer to look at. A bit more of a feature rather than just a monotonous metallic lump. And yeah, I just find it adds a little bit of depth. And the same to the sump plug as well. Add a little bit of that to it too. And then a couple of decals to go on the oil level inspection holes, I suppose we call them. So they've been decaled, and we've got some Tamiya LP9 clear on a cocktail stick. I'm just adding a little bit of clear in there to give a little bit of shine to that, so it looks like the inspection glass. Our coil packs that sit on top of the engine, they're painted in LP everything 5 semi-gloss black. I'm just going to brush paint around the edges like the instructions call out in our Vallejo Model silver. And then with a bit of CA glue, we're going to put our clutch plate in. There is a poly cap, as you can see. I have installed it in the plate itself, so don't forget that. So have a look at where everything goes, and then plonk it in, push it fully home. As you see, we do have a nice contrast between the silver of the block and the bright silver of those parts. And then we've got the coil packs themselves, I assume the coil packs, which are an unbelievably tight fit in the top of that cover. All 4 in. They do go to some specific ways, so do pay attention to your instructions. And then with a little bit of CA glue, we can just get this in place. Like I say, most of the bits on this kit just clip in. This held itself together, but you know if you didn't glue it, you look down a year later and it's gone. The carpet's added, the vacuum's chewed it up. So even though they fit well, glued them in place. But yeah, nice bit of depth on the engine there. The parts are looking really good. And then inside. Now these parts here, me and Luke were chatting about these, and we're not sure what they are. So I thought they might have been core plugs, like you get on a normal engine. I don't know if they are. Luke thought they may be diagnostic ports. Alan was thinking they were inspection ports. So if anybody knows what they are, let us know, because we'll be interested to know. But again, really positive fit, really tight fit again as well. So yeah, give a good positive push in place. Like so. A little bit of CA glue to hold them in. And again, just a wonderful kit from Tamiya. Highly recommend this one. It's going together really well so far. And I don't really foresee any problems with it at all. The parts like this will fit together well. Everything's going to fit together well. Hopefully we're going to get a nice build, which may spur us on to build more bike kits. So with the sump ready to go, just add a few little dabs of CA glue. Pop it in place. I'm really happy with the sump cover and the cam cover as well. I think it's just the right colour for me, that I like the colour of for those particular parts on a real bike. Like I say, once you start getting this thing together, it starts to really come together well. We've got a couple of other parts to go on here. I don't know if these are inspection panels. I'm not 100% sure. They could be. So a little dab of CA glue. Make sure it's orientated the correct way round. And there we go. That's how it's glued in place. Same for this other part here as well. Just refer to the instructions. Make sure you go for the correct way round. And then we've got, I assume this is the water pump. Whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know. That just fits in the top. So a little bit of Sega at the top and bottom. And that fits in really positively. And there's this weird little panel here, which kind of hovers over this part. So a little dab of Sega glue there. And then grab it, make sure it's the right way round. Plonk it on. Push it home. Let the CA glue grab it. Job done. I've got this little part here. I'm not going to lie, I don't know what this is at all. And then the oil filter here as well. So like I say, everything fits together absolutely fantastic. Testament to Tamiya's wonderful engineering as always. It's a beautiful looking engine. It's going to look really nice once it's done. And again, there's a little part, not 100% sure what it is. Fits in place absolutely beautiful. Once we're happy, just push it home with our tweezers, nice and gentle. And then we've got this fitting here with our little banjo fitting on. Kind of weirdly fits over the top of these two little prongs here. It was quite difficult for me to work this one out. I couldn't quite figure out how it went on. But it just fits on like there, like so. And then this part here as well. Again, I don't know what it is, but it's this part. So those parts glue together. And our clutch. So we get a little bit of a look at the clutch here now. I think it looks really good for a kit part. The decal on the side adds a bit of interest to it. I think it's really pretty for a clutch. And then that just fits into the polycap. It needs a really positive push in. Like so. And it does turn as well. Actually does turn. A little bit gimmicky, I think, but a nice touch from Tamiya either way. And then we've got that part we built earlier on. I'm not sure. It looks almost like a starter motor, but obviously, is it a starter motor? I don't know. Is it where the starter goes? It could be, I suppose, looking at it. It could well be. I thought the starters went directly into the engine myself, but I don't know. I might be wrong. Again, if you know, let me know. I'm a dummy. I don't know anything about the kits. So, we've got the Tamiya panel line wash. Same wash as we used before, highly thinned. I'm just going to run it all over the engine. If I hold a wash, we're putting a wash on it. We'll let it dry and we'll come back later on and wipe off any excess. So, just look at it like I do. If I hold a wash, it's a recess or a raised part. Hit it with a wash. If you put a bit too much down, wipe the brush off and go back and collect up any excess wash. It's easy to do that way, but this adds so much depth to the engine. It's massively worth doing. It just adds a lot of visual interest to it, so really well worth doing. So just go around, cover every single piece you can, let it dry, give it half an hour, 40 minutes, come back with a cotton bud and just wipe off any excess. While I wait for that to dry, I thought we might as well build the frame and the swing arm. So 3 components for the frame, really easy to clean up, standard cleanup procedure. Fit together really positively, like so. Very clean. We're going to have a few seams to fill, which we always do on these anyway. So a little bit of Tamiya Extra Thin mix in there and glue it all together. Just be careful with the glue. Make sure you get everywhere glued together. Give it a little bit of a squeeze again. And don't forget the rear part as well. There's a little piece at the back just needs gluing in. Again, really positive fit. Like I say, you could almost get away with glue on most of this kit. But yeah, there are going to be some parts that need filling, mainly the top of this, and some parts down the back as well. But we can figure that out later. I just thought I'd do this while we're kind of sat around waiting for the wash to dry. And then once that's glued, we move on to the swing arm. So just 2 pieces to go together here. Again, fits fantastic. We're probably going to have to fill some of this in as well so we can get it pretty seamless. And there is a bit of a seam line running down some of the pieces as well. But fit together, absolutely great. Again, hit it with our extra thin mix of glue and just hold it. Like I say, just doing this now because I'm waiting for that wash to dry, but it's another part out of the way. And we're going to need this in the next part, or part 3 anyway, pretty soon. So just a couple of dabs of glue. Hold it. and yeah, it goes together really well. Swing arm and the frame itself are quite important parts. They're quite prominent on the kit, so if you are going to fill it, make sure you do a good job filling the seams. Make sure there's no seam showing. And the frame, getting the engine and the frame is quite a pivotal point on this. Getting the swing arm on the bike the same, and the forks are the same as well. So with the wash dry, we're going to go around and just remove any excess wash. You need to be gentle on some parts. The enamel will wear away. I found a little bit of the chrome wore away on some parts, so we'll have to add that back in when everything's fully dry. So just be careful with the cotton buds. We want to try and remove as much excess, and excess is the key word here, wash as you possibly can, because it just gives everything depth then. It's not a dirty engine at all. These things are meticulously cleaned, but we want the depth to show of the recessed and raised areas. We're all cleaned up. There we go. There's our engine. I'm happy with this. It's come out well. Clutch looks great. Happy with the metallic tones. Happy with everything contrasting against each other. They look really, really good. It's going to be a nice engine, this when it's all built up. So like I say, next part, we'll get all the bodywork done and get it all painted, hopefully decaled and 2K'd. So there we go then. There we are. That's for Stuart. What can I say? Wonderful. Absolutely beautiful kit. Goes together no problem at all. I'm happy with all the engine colours it chose. They look good. They're not perfect, but I'm more than happy with the way it looks. We've got some nice contrast on parts. The fit is phenomenal, the kit. It goes together absolutely beautiful. And I'm kind of looking forward, but also a little bit intrepid on doing all the bodywork. But yeah, that's going to be the next part in part 2. So all our sprue glue should have dried, so we can sand all that, get a prep for primer, get a prep for colour. We've got to mask it. We've then got to decal it, and then we've got to clear coat it as well. So that is the plan for part 2. So we are. If you're building this kit as well, let me know in the chat. Let me know what you think of it so far. Where are you up to on it? And yeah, hopefully we'll see a lot of build of these over the next few months. But I'm always happy to get one of these kits and build them first. I don't mean for other people, but just always happy to build one when they come out. So very excited to see this one come together. Hopefully we can get it finished, and maybe it'll spur me on to build other bike kits in the future too. So there we are. As always, if you want to support the channel, there's a Patreon me link, a PayPal me link, and a Buy Me a Coffee link in the description down below. Check out International Scale Modeler Facebook page and forum, umpretail.com. We get a lot of products I use in these videos, and hopefully we'll have this bike in stock soon as well. Check out my Paul ISM Scale Modeling. I changed the name of it now. Facebook page, there's a link in the description down below. And of course, check out the Live the Bench page, the Off Air Hangout group, and the group build page as well for all news on everything ISM related. And also check out my daily live streams, which are over on my Paul ISM Live the Bench page, which again, there's a link down below in the description. Don't forget, this Friday, we're on the Paul ISM Live the Bench page for the Friday night live show. There isn't any live shows on the other channel now. They're all staying over on my other channel. I'm live tonight, Wednesday the 26th. That's what I'm going to watch. Because we do live streams on a Wednesday night now as well. So there we are. Thank you all for watching today. Have I got a question? No, I haven't. So there we are. So thanks for watching, everyone. I will catch you all next time. Take care. Bye-bye.